Hello everyone and welcome to a most remarkable game from round 1 of the Qd3 Rapid and Blitz tournament. It's French for Ivory Coast, or at least it should be. I'm sorry, I don't speak French, so I don't know if I pronounce that properly. But it's a game between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley, so it's really a remarkable game. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it, but before that I have a short announcement. As you can see in the top left corner, it can be a bit confusing if you don't know what's this all about. It says join our chess manga. Now a friend and I decided to start creating a chess manga, or so maybe it's a comic. I don't know the difference between a comic and a manga. Probably just this one is more of a Western a thing, and the other one just maybe a Japanese type of entertainment. Maybe it's a difference in drawing, or but doesn't really matter. And he's still brushing up, honing his drawing skills and whatnot. And while he's doing so, we would like to have something to practice with. So I was thinking, if you're feeling creative, or if you have some sort of a nice story, if you were interested in starting a manga or something like that, well, maybe you already have it written, maybe you would like to write it. I will put a link in the description below. It will be an email, a newly created email. You can use it to send us at least either an idea, or it could be already an entire script, or maybe just a few sentences about what it could be. It could be pretty much anything. It could be a story about I don't know, person playing chess, but something happens to him. It could be a drama. It could be, maybe you're a demon slayer by night and brushing up on your endgame skills by day. Really anything. And if you're interested in that, do join us. And we will mostly be using it as practice for when we one day do start releasing it. But if it's a great idea, maybe it will even stick, and of course then you are immediately a part of the team. So maybe if you're interested in that, do check it out, and do send us your ideas. So that being said, let's return to this very nice game. Like we said, the Qd3 Ivory Coast tournament in Abidjan, Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley. So it's the first part of the 2019 Grand Chess Tour, and this year it happens on more continents than the previous year. They are also coming. One part of the Grand Chess Tour is also being played in Croatia through June and July. So it will be pretty cool to see all of these elite players come to my small country of Croatia. And yeah, I think it's going to be really awesome. And the prize fund for the entire event here is $150,000, or not for the entire one, I believe for the rapid part. I'm not sure about the blitz one, but we're first going to cover the rapid. So it's 3 games of rapid every day. The rapid section goes for 3 days. The time control is 25 minutes per player, no increment, but there is a delay of 10 seconds before every move, starting from move 1. So you can basically play an entire game without losing any time if you make every move under 10 seconds, which is not often the case. But yeah, just wanted to share that. And we do have some photos, compliments of Leonard Otis, the official photographer of the Grand Chess Tour 2019. So here they are. There you have it, Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen, with a gentleman making the first move. I do not recognize the gentleman, but if any of you do, I welcome you to share in the comments so we can all increase our, vast knowledge. Then we have a very nice photo of Carlsen shaking the gentleman's hand. Here also you can see Carlsen rocking his Isklar water. Really, I've tried it. It's actually a very nice water. Then we have also another nice photo, Wesley from behind, Magnus there, and then we see Maurice Ashley on the left looking smooth as always. And lastly but not leastly, there we have Carlsen and Wesley. It's still in the opening, and there you have it with the nice colorful orange and green letters, Qd3 Rapid and Blitz tournament, and all of the players. We're going to talk about all the players and the standings after we show a couple of games, but we're going to get back to that. So this was a bit of a longer intro, but it is the first game in this tournament, so I hope you don't mind. Now, without further ado, let's check out the game. Carlsen has the white pieces, and he opens with c4. And he's been opening with c4 a lot of his games lately, and with great results. We have e6 by Wesley. Sorry about that. The Agincourt defense to Carlsen's English. We have knight to c3, d5 by Wesley, and now Carlsen takes this opportunity to take, of course, the game into the known waters of the Queen's Gambit decline. We have knight to f6, and c captures on d5. Like Capablanca, Carlsen also a fan of the early capture on d5. We have knight captures, e4 now, kicking away the knight. Now you could go back with knight b6, but it's considered better to just capture on c3. B captures, and now c5 by Wesley. We have rook to b1. It's a similar structure like the Grunfeld defense, but the bishop will not be fianchettoed on g7. After Carlsen's rook to b1, Wesley just goes the bishop to e7. We have knight to f3 by Carlsen, castles, we have bishop to e2 by Carlsen, and now b6, the bishop will be developed to this b7 square to assume this long diagonal. We have castles by Carlsen, bishop to b7, and here this position has already been reached in last year's game between Jan Gustafsson and Christoph Eichler, where Gustafsson won the game. Also, he played queen to d3, but Eichler continued with c captures on d4. But here Wesley goes knight bd7, it's a new move, and now we have a completely new game. Carlsen continues development with rook to e1. The pawn is about to be attacked with knight f6, so you do have to prepare to defend it. With rook to c8, the c file will become open at one point, so you want to develop rooks to open files. And now Carlsen's last piece that's undeveloped is this bishop on c1. You want to develop it to the most active square, and that is the f4 square, where the bishop is most active. With knight to f6 now, pressuring the e4 pawn, as the bishop and knight are attacking it, and now bishop to d1, the rook is also now defending the pawn. With knight to h5, saying to Carlsen, I want this diagonal for my queen, you have to move the bishop or you will lose the bishop pair. Carlsen says, alright, I'm not giving you the bishop pair. We have bishop to d2, and now queen to c7. Wesley increases the pressure along the c file, and now the queen is also on this very nice diagonal. We have knight to g5 by Carlsen, saying you either have to weaken your position or you have to give up the bishop pair, or I'm just going to have a nice knight on g5. It's your call, basically. And Wesley says, no thank you, I'm going to go knight f4, block your bishop's defense of the knight here, and now it's you who can give up the bishop pair. But of course Carlsen is not interested in giving up the bishop pair. Queen to g3, defending the knight, and now we have knight back to g6 by Wesley, offering a queen trade. And here it's one of the rare cases where Carlsen doesn't immediately jump at the chance of a queen trade. He plays queen to g4, he wants to go h4, h5, basically saying my position is better, my pieces are more active, they are controlling more squares. The queen trade will not, I mean, even though it's possible, Magnus thinks that he should go for activity in this game and keep the queens on the board. Here, as you don't want to allow this, with bishop captures on g5, Wesley gives up the bishop pair, but by doing so, he also wins the pawn. So it will be very interesting to see what's Carlsen's compensation for the pawn. With bishop captures, and now comes c captures on d4. C captures on d4, and now well, it's easier to see if we just go back 2 moves before this capture. Note that when Carlsen played bishop to d1, the rooks are no longer connected, and this rook on e1 will become undefended. So this is the idea you have to see, and then it's clear how to win a pawn. Just bishop captures, like Wesley played, bishop captures, and now you see that the rook on e1 is unguarded. Queen to c3 with a double attack, the rook and the pawn are now end prize. So you do have to defend it. Bishop to b3, once again Carlsen connects rooks, and now queen captures on d4. So what's Carlsen's compensation for the pawn? Seems like black's position is great. The rook is on an open c file. This other rook can be developed to d8. The bishop assumes this beautiful diagonal. The knight is, well, it would be better maybe somewhere on f6, but it's a good knight. So what's Carlsen's compensation for the pawn? Well, first rook b to d1, just winning the d file and forcing the queen to move. With queen to e5, and now comes h4. Carlsen hopes to push h5 to kick the knight away. Wesley, of course, doesn't allow it. First h6, kicking the bishop back with bishop to c1, and now not allowing h5, Wesley pushes h5 himself. So h5, and now you can see that Carlsen can't really move the queen because, well, he can't very well give up yet another pawn. Knight captures on f4 would be great for black. So here Carlsen says, I don't mind being down a pawn, queen to g5. Now we trade queens. And okay, queen captures, we have bishop captures on g5, now controlling the d8 square, so rook cannot be developed there. That's excellent compensation. For the moment, f6 is not possible, as the e6 pawn will hang with check. So, rook to c7, Wesley prepares to double up rooks here, and now comes f4. And it's a super interesting move, because it basically offers Wesley to play f6 and trap the bishop. But for the moment it's not possible, as the e6 pawn still hangs. And you do want to prevent it, because f5 is a threat. If f5 was to be played, then the knight would have to go all the way to h8. So first, Wesley stops it with bishop to c8. Rook to 8 would have been better, just freeing up the f8 square for the knight. But okay, first he goes bishop to c8, now preventing f5, but now Carlsen just goes rook to c1. He takes this little opportunity where Wesley is not able to double rooks here to take control of the c file. And now if you capture, then it doesn't matter that Carlsen is down a pawn, he's going to go rook to c7, his position is going to be much better. So here we have rook to b7, a really awkward place for the rook, not allowing Carlsen this rook lift with the rook to c7. Well, for the moment, Wesley's pieces aren't all that greatly coordinated. Rook to c3 by Carlsen, he's preparing rook to c1, and for the moment, f6 still not possible. It seems like it traps the bishop, but it really doesn't, because of rook captures on c8. Rook captures, and now bishop captures on e6 check, wins the rook, king f8, bishop captures, now you have to deal with the rook, and now even bishop f5, attacking the knight, knight e7, and here you would have to go bishop e6, captures, and you would go into this endgame, where it's actually Carlsen who's up a pawn, but with a much better position. So Wesley is not interested in this. First, king to h7. If f6 is now played, bishop captures here will not be happening with check. So rook e to c1, still not allowing f6, as rook captures bishop would happen. Bishop to d7, and now even rook to c7, still not possible to play f6. Rook captures, going for the bishop here, and here if you move the bishop, then e5 happens, and you're never going to push f6. f6 now loses to pawn captures, and the g pawn is pinned. Of course, you cannot capture it. So after rook captures on c7, we have f6 by Wesley, finally deciding to do it. If he doesn't do it now, he's not going to do it ever. We have rook captures on d7, pawn captures on g5, f captures on g5, and now knight captures on h4. So now you see, after all is said and done, of course, bishop captures on e6. The material on the board is equal, but Carlsen's position is, well, it seems to be much better, and it's not all that easy to decide how to play this position with black, as the knight doesn't really have all that many squares. You can't go here, you can't go here, you can't go here, and of course, if you go here to bring the knight back into the game, just bishop f5 wins the game. You can't unpin here. If you unpin, you lose the knight. You can go rook f6, the pawn covers the f6 square. Next move, you're just gonna go rook d6 and take the knight. So, king to g6, Wesley wants to grab the g5 pawn. Here, rook captures on a7 by Carlsen. King captures, and now rook captures on g7. Of course, with check. King to f6 with a double attack, but of course, rook to g8 takes care of everything. And here, the best course of action for black would be just to capture, and after bishop captures, king e5, not king e5, but it's still very hard to play the game. You have to bring the knight into the game this way. If you go king e5, you can even lose the game instantly with bishop here, because bishop h7 traps the knight. You can see that the knight now can't go anywhere. And well, once you can go king f6 and bring the knight back into the game, but once the bishop captures the knight, then it's just 3 pawns to 2 pawns, of course, a completely winning endgame. Here, Wesley went for a different line. He played knight to g6 immediately, but now it's an even clearer win. It's really a beautiful, simple win for white. Feel free to pause the video here and try to find this, well, simple but a deadly move for white. I'll give you a couple of seconds as usual. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent finder of simple yet deadly winning moves. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook captures on f8 with check. That's the point. You have to recapture the rook, knight captures, and now, of course, the move you had to find, bishop to f5. You all know this famous relationship between a bishop and the knight. When they are 2 squares apart, then the bishop controls all of the squares that the knight can jump to. And vice versa, of course, if the position is other way around. So here, black will never be able to introduce the knight back into the game. If he does, whenever he plays the knight anywhere, even trades it for a bishop, then of course we enter again into this king and pawn endgame. Whatever, let's say white just starts bringing the king into the game, and let's say knight goes here, captures, and of course now the endgame is completely winning for white. But yeah, after this knight to g6, Carlsen simply played this bishop to f5 move, and it was in this position that Wesley so resigned the game. So an excellent victory for Magnus in this round 1 of the Qd3 Rapid tournament. We're gonna cover a few more games, and I'm leaving my hometown today. I'm going to Makarska for a short chess tournament, and I don't know how many games will I be able to cover, as they are playing so many games. It's a rapid tournament, 3 games every day, but I'm bringing my laptop with me, so I will try to cover as many as possible. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Julian Yusufzadeh, Omin Mortazavi, Ivan Devig Andersen, Robert Butler, and Alessandro Innocenti for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing this Qd3 Rapid tournament, and maybe if I grab the time, also simultaneously continuing the Capablanca saga. And of course, do check out the chess manga I mentioned, or rather maybe check out the option of joining us, you know, creating it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all. I will see you soon. Have an excellent rest of your day.